Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as it is remaining fairly chilly the next 2 or 3 days. And then as we head into the weekend and start of next working week, it is going to be turning bitterly cold as northerly winds do arrive, with the risk of significant snow as we head into the middle part of next working week in around 6, 7, 8 days time. That's the area we are really interested at this stage. And we'll have a look at the latest from the GFS, GM and ECMWF, both with the pressure perspective, looking at how the whole synoptic pattern does develop, and of course looking at the precipitation as well. Even though there is a lot of uncertainty at this stage, it is interesting still to have a look at those charts at this time frame to see what the big models are showing in the medium range. And then we'll finish by having a look at the Ensemble to see the whole broad perspective with all the different runs to see what the most likely both medium and long-term situation will be. So to start on the live radar, you can see it is reasonably dry out there at the moment with a few showers around, a few of these wintry over the higher ground, but we are seeing slightly milder air starting to topple around the high pressure system, which is now starting to move towards Greenland. So it will open the floodgates to very cold air in around 3 or 4 days time, but at the moment we've got relatively average upper air temperatures. At the surface though, still pretty chilly with a layer of pretty cold air still trapped. Still will produce frosts over the coming days, but daytime temperatures should start to get to around that sort of 5 or 6 degree mark. Now through this evening it will still be fairly cold. I'm calling this around 6 p.m. and you can see where we've got clearer skies, especially across southern and eastern areas, and then across parts of Scotland, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. It is pretty cold indeed, already temperatures down close to freezing, and the feel like temperature making it feel more like -3 or -4 degrees. So yes, it isn't bitterly cold right now, or at least bitterly cold compared to what it will be next week, but it still is fairly chilly, just setting up this fairly prolonged cold spell, with it potentially peaking with some significant snow next week. So if we do have a look at the latest UKV, you can see at the moment it's very few showers around through the rest of this evening, a few coming in off the North Sea, but nothing particularly crazy at all. Some clear skies as we head into tomorrow, and again a few showers dotted about. Again, some of them don't even show on the live rate on the precipitation charts here, but there probably will be a few dotted within the cloud, but mostly it will be sunshine for some, cloud for others, but overall it's going to be temperatures around the low to mid single digits. But of course it is slowly rising as those upper air temperatures do start to pick up a bit. As we head into Thursday into Friday, you can start to see the wind direction start to come more in from the northerly, and then showers re-emerging for parts of northern Scotland, with perhaps some longer spells of rain there as we do start to see the layers of cold air starting to push in. Now initially this weather front is bringing slightly cooler or colder air behind it, with the milder air ahead of it, so we're not going to be seeing any wintriness with this. But as we head into Saturday and into Sunday, more of those showers across Scotland will turn to snow, and then we start to see the floodgates open to bitterly cold air, and come the early hours of Monday we do start to see wintry showers pushing in for all of Scotland, for parts of Northern Ireland, even into parts of southern Wales, southwest England and northern and eastern England there. As I said though, this is the first hours of the colder spell, with it likely ramping up as we do spread through Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Now you can see the bitterly cold air that is in place widely down towards -8 to -10 degrees at 850 HPA. And again, the upper air temperatures, the actual values do matter, but of course coming straight from the north means the dew points are exceptionally low. Look at that, widely down towards sort of -4 to -6, symbolic of very dry Arctic air, which may prohibit snow initially, before we could see weather fronts pushing in the subsequent days. Of course, these very low dew points and very low upper air temperatures will mean that, at least initially, any precipitation falling out of the sky will be falling as snow. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see through this afternoon temperatures around the 4 to 6 degree mark. Still chilly in a few areas. We've got a bit of fog or a bit of trapped cloud, but most areas getting to around that 3 to 6 degree mark. Overnight tonight, again, a frost in the southeast as the cold conditions still remain with clearer skies. And then as we head into Thursday afternoon, again, looking at maybe 4 to 7 degrees, still cold across Scotland and higher ground of southwest England and South Wales. So yeah, it's turning slightly milder in the next couple of days, but really nothing significant at all. And then as we progress into Friday, still pretty cold indeed, especially further northwards. And then into Saturday, frost descending again where we have clearer skies. But look what happens as we progress through Saturday afternoon. Still only 2 or 3 degrees as the cold air starts to move back in. And by Sunday, it's starting to turn bitterly cold in the north. Temperatures widely below freezing in the day. Further southwards, maybe 5 or 6 degrees. But by Sunday into Monday morning, all areas waking up to temperatures well below freezing. And by the day, I suspect some areas won't get above freezing at all. And even the best of temperatures may only be 1 or 2 degrees. Now, instead of having a look at the other precipitation charts, what we're going to do is going to go through the individual models, have a look at their pressure level, and then also have a look at their precipitation charts. Because I do think it is important to have a look at the overall perspective and then zoom in to see why we're seeing snow or rain or general areas of precipitation where they are. Because sometimes we do run through the precipitation charts, we can see where snow is, but we don't explain exactly why it's that far north, that far south, or why it's rain, or why it's snow. So I think by having a look at the pressure charts now, we can give that perspective a little bit better. Now we're going to start on the GFS, which has been all over the place. So I would put a big kind of red flag over this model, not in terms of anything specifically it's producing, but just the fact that it is all over the place. You can't really rely on any single individual run, but it still is important to have a look at it to show you what the sort of outcomes could be. Now over the coming hours, it's going to turn milder with that northeasterly wind, but milder upper temperatures moving in. As we head into next week, we do see those northerly winds push in by Sunday into Monday, and that's where the UKV gets to. And this is the point where we do start to see uncertainty by Monday, Tuesday. Now, GFS has been very sceptical of the high pressure block up over Greenland, which has sort of understated it much more than other models are showing. So again, have to take that into perspective. But as we thread through Monday, we see 2 areas of interest for snow. We see in the general northerly flow, we could see an area of low pressure develop towards Iceland and slide through that colder block. And what that could do is bring an area of snow, but a slight wedge of milder air. And exactly how big that wedge of milder air could perhaps turn to rain at times. And we'll see that on the precipitation charts. And then as we progress towards Wednesday, we see a larger area of low pressure bump from the south. And that could give a more significant area of snow through Wednesday into Thursday. Now, the GFS, as I said, has been very sceptical of the Greenland high. It has trended more towards a major blocking pattern, but it still is allowing the Atlantic to break through a little bit easier than most of the other runs are showing. Most runs at the moment are out to day 10, still showing pretty cold block conditions, whereas here the GFS allows the Atlantic to break through, and it would actually go much milder come the weekend following this colder northerly blast. But you can see that GFS, being the GFS, does actually start to build a Scandinavian high in the longer term. And that is something that we have seen in the past couple of days from some of the GFS runs. And it starts to try and pull in a bitterly cold easterly wind. That would be incredibly interesting indeed as we head towards the latter part of January. So we're in GFS doing GFS things, but we will concentrate mainly only on its sort of 7 or 8 day time frame, as we have a lot of uncertainty even within that period. Now, if you have a look at the GFS, skip out to day 5 or 6, out towards Monday afternoon, you can see the wintry showers coming in, but you see they do get limited, but then we see that area of snow here moves through Scotland, bringing actually a bit of rain there with a wedge of milder air. Other runs don't have this developing at all. Other runs have it developing much further southwards and westwards, bringing a more widespread risk of snow for areas further southwards and westwards. So we will have to see exactly how that develops, just showing the uncertainty even at day 5 or 6. I'll be very interested to see what the UKV has tomorrow for this system. Some runs even combine this low with the low out towards the southwest and develop a quite a big low pressure system sweeping the cold air away. It is a minority of runs, but it is an option. Here though, the GFS keeps them separate but pushes this low through quite far northwards, and then we see the next low arrive from the south, bumping into the very cold air and producing heavy snow across much of the Midlands, Wales and northern England. Again, 50-mile difference in this would bring that snow into southern England. So if you are looking at this and saying it's showing rain where I am, again, as I said, the runs are all over the place in terms of exact positioning and precipitation types. So don't take the exact positioning too literally. The thing to take from this is low pressure bumping into the cold air for pulling back away into the Atlantic. So not pushing through, not bringing milder air in for all, essentially bringing quite a widespread snow risk before pulling away back out in towards Europe. And then we get towards the latter part of the week where there's even more uncertainty. So I won't even go beyond that, as there is really no point at this stage, as we don't have the next 7 days resolved at all. Again, I'm going to do a little bit of something that I probably shouldn't do, but show you these snow depth charts. Again, don't take these too literally, but if we did see the sort of pattern like that, this is showing 20 to 50 centimetres of snow across a large area of the Midlands and Wales. Again, could be further southwards, could be further northwards, it could be a lot less. I doubt it could be much more. That would be historic if we did see half a metre of snow. But again, very interesting seeing this, just showing you the significant and disruptive risk that there is as we head into next week. Now, to show you the GEM, firstly, the pressure chart, You can see the high pressure moving up towards Greenland, much stronger high pressure up towards Greenland than the GFS shows, and it means those northerly winds are a lot stronger. We do see that small low develop just in the flow, and we can see it symbolically by this little thread of milder air. As you see from the precipitation charts in a minute, it does mean there's actually very little rain mixing in with this because that milder wedge is much smaller and actually means areas stay very cold as that milder air isn't strong enough or it's not got as much depth to really push cold air away, essentially meaning it remains as snow and remains bitterly cold at the surface even though the upper air temperatures temporarily rise. And that's why sometimes looking at just the raw precipitation, the raw upper air temperatures on, for example, the Ensemble charts can be a little deceiving. As we head beyond that though, northerly winds properly push back in, and then we see a collision of cold air and milder air again somewhere across southern England towards northern England, and we do see cold air wrap back around within it, and then it stays bitterly cold all the way to day 10 with high pressure still blocking in the Atlantic, low pressure spiraling around. We would see lots of heavy snow with this and bitterly cold conditions. I can't emphasize that enough. Mid-January with freezing cold upper air temperatures hanging around for a week plus, it is going to be frigid towards the surface, especially where we have snow cover. And I said if we do look at the GEM precipitation charts here, go out to day 5, you can see that wedge of milder air pushing through Tuesday into Wednesday. You can see it with this little low symbolic, this little low sign there, or you can see actually there's 2 lows. There's one that heads through Scotland, and there's a secondary low. So you can see the GM again developing a slightly different pattern within the flow, different disturbances, bringing the risk of further snow. You can see, as I said, that little wedge of slightly milder air pushing through, and that is what gives these 2 areas of snow, and because the surface is still bitterly cold, it remains as snow as it pushes in. And then we see the large area of snow push in for the south, not getting quite as far northwards as the GFS does, but it actually keeps us bitterly cold. So there will be no issues with rainfall here. It would all be falling as snow, but it doesn't quite push as far northwards, so it wouldn't be as heavy and as widespread. And then beyond that, it stays absolutely frigid with more very heavy snow spiraling around, milder out to our west, trying to push in. But what that does, it just allows moisture to get to mix in. And we just see more and more snow as we progress in towards the following weekend. Again, this is probably something I shouldn't do, but show you the snow depth. Again, not as significant as the GFS in terms of overall amounts, but in widespread cover, seeing many areas, seeing multiple centimetres of snow. And again, a lot of it would be shower activity, so there probably would be a lot of snow here not forecasted. As the GFS was more frontal based, this is more showery based as that low pressure systems were further southwards. So you can already see the difference between these 2 runs. GEM, not as disruptive in terms of snow, still would be very disruptive, just not 30 or 40 centimetres and a wall of snow, but showing a much more prolonged colder spell with less energy, but still more cold, more snow in the long term. The GFS comes with very cold, very snowy for a few days, and then starts to break it down. Now, if you compare to the latest ECMWF to see what that is showing over the coming days, again, you can see easterly winds pushing in at the moment. Northerly winds pushing in by early next week. Very cold conditions prevail for all. Again, you can see that little low developing through Monday into Tuesday there, moving across northern areas, and again, symbolic by the little wedge of milder air within that. Again, we'll have a look at the midnight run here, and then you can see milder air trying to push in from the south, and that can, again, as it slides through, give very heavy snow, eventually all the way to day 10. Similar to the GM, we stay very cold, maybe not quite as cold as the GM, with low pressure still tracking to our south, still giving us the risk of snow. And if we go back to WX charts and have a look at the latest precipitation charts from the ECMWF to see what it is showing, again, we do see the northerly wind arrive, widespread snow showers developing, and then eventually we see that low initially move through northern areas, giving some heavy snow there, could move slightly further southwards, and then we see very heavy snow moving in for all across parts of the Midlands, even towards London, but perhaps a slight wedge of milder air there before eventually clearing away and continuing to give very cold, wintry conditions. And again, if we do have a look at these snow depth spikes, again, 20, 30 centimetres possible, but again, would be probably quite a bit different to this, because again, these are operational runs a week away, and we are seeing lots of discrepancies. But I've shown you the three main models today, and I've got very cold conditions from all of them, heavy snow from all of them, but just do it in all in a slightly different way, slightly different positioning, and it's going to make all the difference to what we see next week. Now, after you finish, we'll have a look at the ensemble. We'll start on the MOG reps. As I said, we don't normally look at this, but because we are really interested in the medium to short range, it is important as these go out days to 7 days. These are the Met Office ensembles. Not the best for longer term because they don't go out beyond day 7, but we can see here out towards sort of next Wednesday, Thursday time. You see the big cold plunge of northerly winds. All runs get very cold air. That is very important for snow. A few days ago, we were seeing some runs not getting that cold air in, mostly from the GFS ensembles, and it was putting a little bit of a spanner in the works because there was the risk that it completely capitulated this colder spell. But you see all the ensemble members here get very cold air in for about 2 days, and then we start to see a few going milder. Most stay around the -5 region, or -1 or 2, which is still cold enough for snow. We've got this amount of cold air embedded at the surface. But others, maybe 3 or 4, go above 0, which would bring the risk of rain. But the fact that we are seeing a slight spike there in upper air temperatures, and we are going to see precipitation associated with that, there is substantial risk through 17th, 18th, next Wednesday, Thursday, of heavy snow, and it is going to be one to keep a very close eye on. The same can be said about the latest GFS that has just rolled out. Again, very cold for a couple of days early next week, then a slight spike in upper air temperatures. The majority stay cold. You see the operational run with other ensemble members going quite a bit milder, and that's brought a bit of rain further southwards before we see a dip again as cold air pushes back in, and then who knows what's going to happen after that. Since we can't even resolve next Wednesday, Thursday, the models are going to have no idea what's going to happen day 10 and beyond. But the foreseeable future, it is looking bitterly cold from Sunday, with the risk of heavy snow around that Wednesday, Thursday period. As you can see, high precipitation spikes, slight spike in upper air temperatures, but still cold enough for wintriness. The other very important thing is the dew points. Dew points look widely below freezing all of next week. Yes, some runs spiking those dew points, but again, those are the milder runs that bring that warmer air in. But where that cold air sets up, we cannot say, where that cold air, mild air boundary will be, we cannot say at this stage. And then if we do compare to the ECMWF, the midnight run again, very similar with a spike in upper air temperatures by next Wednesday, Thursday. The risk of heavy snow once again before turning colder from the majority of ensemble members. The one thing I will note with this low pressure system next Wednesday, Thursday, or multiple low pressure system next Wednesday, Thursday, when we see sliding lows or channel lows, whatever you want to call them, they do generally, in the short to medium range, trend southwards from where they're initially forecasted. So when they initially come into the range, which it has done in the last day or two, the models are picked up on in the last day or two, or substantially picked up on it with proper consistency. From that point, they do tend to trend southwards, which would push that snow perhaps into northern France, the Channels, or we'll just nudge it slightly further south and mean areas to the south of the M4, towards the south coast, for example, wouldn't see rain and would actually see heavy snow. Now, that is just something that is noted that has happened in the past and generally does happen in these sort of scenarios. We cannot say for certain it will happen here, but it is just something to note that generally in the past, in these sort of patterns, the models at the medium range do underestimate the strength of blocking patterns and the strength of that very cold, dense air, and do allow the low pressure systems to push slightly further northwards than they would do in reality. So we will just have to see how it does develop. But that is why I'm putting so much skepticism in this at this stage, because we really don't know exactly where that mild air, cold air boundary will be. But wherever it does set up, there is looking likely to be a lot of snow as we head into next week. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. We'll have more updates over the coming days. Likely we'll see weather warnings issued probably around later this week or by the weekend for all these conditions next week, whether it's for snow showers further northwards or preliminary warnings for the risk of substantial snow elsewhere as we head into the middle of next week. We will just have to see. But yeah, looking pretty significant and disruptive next week. And yes, I'm going to call it. I do think there is going to be some disruptive snow somewhere next week. I just can't pinpoint it yet. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.